Welcome back to another episode of Fisticuff Central, and today is a special one for me as it is my first boxing event coverage, and no better way to start it than an all-British title fight with Daniel Dubois, the current champ, versus Anthony Joshua. Now, this should actually be quite a good fight. Stylistically, it makes for a very entertaining fight. Obviously, a little bit of controversy in the fact that Usyk was stripped of the title. You know, boxing politics and all that. It's BS, but here we are. I ain't mad at it. You know, right now, at the time, maybe felt a little bit different. But let's get straight into it. So, both of these guys are heavy hitters, athletic specimens, and both have a similar skill set, but a little different at the same time. So I'd say that Anthony Joshua is definitely the cleaner striker out of the pair of them. And I do think that Dubois is a bit more looping in his shot selection. You know, really likes to rip. You know, at times when you've seen him put the pressure on, he's throwing the hooks consistently. Whereas Anthony Joshua goes down the barrel, but where goes straight down the barrel with the 1-2s. You know, like that's really his bread and butter. It's a lot cleaner in that sense, and he doesn't leave as big as openings as Dubois. Whereas they're both big punchers. They both have a lot of power, knockout power. They've both lost to Alexander Usyk. You know, Dubois is the much younger man in this situation, being around 26 years of age, and Anthony Joshua is around 34 years of age. Both are in good form after both last losing to Usyk. So since Anthony Joshua lost to Usyk in 22, you know, he lost twice. And he has since then really evolved, I would say. Or maybe, I wouldn't even say evolved necessarily that much, because I think in that second Usyk fight, he definitely showed a lot of progression from the first fight. Whereas in the first fight, you know, he wasn't really able to land on Usyk so much, cleanly. He did actually land a few good shots against Usyk in that second fight and had him in a little bit more trouble. You know, Usyk still controlled the fight, still won the fight relatively comfortably, but I think that Joshua did a lot better. And since then, I think he's made it even cleaner and crisper. You know, the old Joshua was wild and reckless, and he just went there to finish. And then after the Klitschko fight, he kind of became a little bit more cautious, a little bit more defensively responsible, but over responsible actually. And the kind of fire and ferociousness that really, you know, made Anthony Joshua one of the best fighters in the world, one of the best boxers in the world, kind of diminished. Even in that Andy Ruiz rematch after he lost, you know, just he was going for points. You know, he was just trying to win rounds. It never looked like he were actually trying to really finish Ruiz. So and then after the Usyk fight, you know, the second one, he's kind of really gelled it all, where he's got that defensive, responsible element to his game that he developed once he became a champion, and he's also mixed it in with the fire and the ferociousness that really got him up to that level and really, you know, got the attention of the world and the British public. Whereas with Dubois, he kind of rose quite quickly, a different trajectory for him. You know, AJ went with the Olympics and being an Olympic champion, whereas Dubois just went straight as a pro and, you know, built his name up from there. But obviously in title fights from a very young age, you know, he's still only 26, and which is, you know, really young for a heavyweight. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Now, the one thing I will say is I think Dubois has the better conditioning over AJ. AJ at times has kind of gassed out a little bit or looked a bit flatter, and then fair play to him, he's found second wind in fights, so he's maybe coasted through rounds, just try to recover, whereas Dubois seems to be able to keep the pace better. However, and I don't know whether all people will agree with me on this, I do think that AJ probably has the better chin and is probably the more durable fighter, even though he has lost 3 fights. Against Ruiz, he was dropped, but the stoppage kind of came in the corner. He wasn't done. It seemed like he quit a little bit, like maybe he didn't want to be there, which fair enough, you could maybe criticise his mentality. But in terms of the actual toughness, he did get dropped, but he wasn't severely hurt. He recovered quite quickly. Same with the Usyk losses. He got rocked a couple of times here and there, but not really, like stunned, I'd say. I didn't really see him truly rocked and wobbled. He got stunned a couple of times, lost his footing, during that. Whereas Dubois has been hurt a little more, I'd say, in my opinion. And I think he's probably got more of a likelihood to quit, which I just said that about Anthony Joshua. But, I think in that Usyk fight, it definitely looked like he quit. I don't know if it was potentially an adrenaline dump, which is something that's crossed my mind, with the controversy of the low blow. So he's maybe in that moment thinking, I don't know, is the fight going to be over? What's the referee doing? This is unfair, whatever. Like, there's probably a million thoughts going through his head. And then you got a massive adrenaline dump, and then you got to still, fight this fired up, world-class fighter. I can't imagine that's a good feeling. So I don't know, and this is what makes it difficult because, they're similar but they're not. Like I say, I think, when it comes to what some of the things that have happened in Korea, I think it's a little similar, but at the same time, I think that, like I said, Dubois is a bit more looping, and he also uses a lot more volume, and his movement actually. Sorry, I don't cover boxing much, so I'm still getting into the swing of things, as you guys can tell. So do excuse me, I'm not quite as well read in boxing as I am in mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts is definitely my bread and butter. So, yeah, I think it's a tough one to call. Like, I am just leaning towards AJ. I think, he's looked really good recently. I mean, what he did to Francis Ngannou, I understand that he's not a boxer, but obviously he gave some tough rounds to Tyson Fury. He just made him look like an amateur. Like, you do not belong in here with me at all. And that was very impressive. I think he's got 3 finishes in a row. He's got, like, Hellenius and... there's still one more in there, wasn't there? He had one more, Otto Wallin, so I think it's 3 finishes in a row for him. I watched the Dubois-Hrgovic fight, and I don't know, I thought it would have been controversial. I mean, some people might agree with me, maybe I don't understand boxing that extensively. I just thought he looked, a little gassed. He didn't look like he was in that much trouble. I didn't see him significantly hurt, but the fight was stopped. And same with the Miller fight, actually, for Dubois. It's like 10 seconds left on the clock. The guy's not that hurt. Yeah, he's not really throwing anything back, but at that point, in my opinion, you just got to let it go, unless the guy's significantly hurt. Like, that's just my opinion. I'm not a boxing purist, so maybe that is not the correct one. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just think that Joshua's a little cleaner and crisper, and I think he'll be able to keep the distance, use the ones and twos to kind of, like stun Dubois. And I think that, we saw in the Tyson Fury fight, in the Francis Ngannou fight, the two of Joshua is so powerful. It really is. And I think because he's got the longer reach, I think he's slightly taller by an inch, and he's used to fighting that style, whereas Dubois kind of moves forward. Fair enough, he does have good movement, and he is looking to land big shots and put a pace on you. I don't know, I just think the style kind of favours Joshua a little bit more, but at the same time, Joshua did struggle with somebody that moved a lot, in Usyk, for example. I just don't think that Dubois is going to be quite as challenging in that sense. I think Usyk was just that active, constant head movement, popping 1-2s at him constantly. I just don't think that Joshua will struggle as much with Dubois in this one. Yeah, I'm not. It's a tough one. I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know what you think. Maybe someone could educate me a bit more on boxing. But yeah, I mean, that pretty much covers my analysis of the fight. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll get a good fight and it's going to be a knockout. I don't really mind who wins. I don't, particularly have a horse in this race. I just want to see a good scrap. That's the pure fight fan in me, and hopefully I can, cover a little bit more boxing moving forward, watch a little bit more boxing, and give better and more in detail analysis. But yeah, thank you very much. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your fucking day. It's nice and early. It doesn't look like the weather's too dog shit, but it's definitely getting there slowly. But hey, it's Britain, so what the hell do you expect? Peace out, guys.